all his UCAD tests in the build-up to that fight and in camp. So we went through this process before with Billy Joe Saunders, where he failed a VADA test, and the board said he's clear to fight in the UK because we don't follow the rules of VADA, so therefore he's not suspended. So the board asked for a lot of information. Callis, Howland and Wasserman wanted all the information, all the findings from the lab, from the testing, to one, find out what this thing was, one, find out what the levels were, one, find out, you know, when the timing was, etc., because they're now faced with a difficult decision. And ultimately, it's not down to Matchroom or Wasserman to pull the fight contractually. Under that rule, Chris Eubank Jr. would have to pull that fight and say, no, I terminate the agreement. Once they got the information, which was probably a few days later from the labs, they were happy with, and during this time as well, just to make one thing clear, Conor Benn spoke to Chris Eubank Jr. on the phone and, you know, made him aware of his feelings.
Chris came out and there's been no correspondence between them.
So if you watch that interview back, Chris Lloyd says to Chris Eubank Jr., have you spoken to Conor Benn today since the news broke? And he said, no, I haven't. He didn't speak to him that Wednesday. He spoke to him about 10 days before when the news broke to the teams. Okay, so they had a conversation on the phone. Chris Eubank Jr., after, you know, getting the information, and Callis Howland, after speaking to his doctors and going through the results, were comfortable. Again, I have to be very careful what I say here because of Conor Benn's case, but this will come out that the levels within Conor Benn and the timings around other tests meant that Conor Benn, they were comfortable to move forward with the fight.
Those are the words of Eddie Hearn. And as you heard him say, that Conor Benn spoke to Chris Eubank Jr. about his adverse findings 2 weeks before when it came out. And then we heard Chris Eubank Jr. saying, no, I didn't receive a phone call. I haven't talked to Conor. You know, and Eddie saying, well, no, he didn't talk to him that day. He talked to him 2 weeks before that. And I don't want to call anybody a liar, but let's just analyze what someone says. Could it be that Chris Eubank spoke to him 2 weeks and forgot speaking to Conor Benn about this issue? That's what you ask yourself. Could it be that he just didn't, he left that out when they asked him about the point at hand, the issue at hand? Hey, have you spoke to Conor Benn? And he said, no, I didn't receive a phone call from him at all. You would think, okay, because I know you could say, well, I didn't speak to him today and this, that, and the other. And you know how videos are chopped and edited, and I get it. You know, Conor said, well, I talked to him, you know, and he knows what, you know, he knows I'm not about that, you know, and he believes in me and this, that, and the other. You know, he kind of sounded like he was, kind of sounded desperate, kind of scared in a sense, you know, concerned rather. And then they heard Chris Eubank Jr. say, no, I haven't talked to him. No, I never received a phone call. Let's go back and let's look, okay? Let's look. I'm going to look this up while we're here. Okay. All right, let's see.
We hear that you had a phone call from Conor Benn this morning. What can you tell us about the conversation you had together?
There was no phone call.
You spoke to Conor?
No, we haven't spoken.
So that's incorrect information. Conor said he spoke to you
Absolutely,
this morning.
no.
We hear that you had a phone call from Conor Benn this morning. What can you tell us about the conversation you had together?
There was no phone call.
You spoke to Conor?
No, we haven't spoken.
So that's incorrect information. Conor said he spoke to you this morning.
No.
We hear that you had.
Okay. And that day we heard Conor Benn say, I've not committed any violation. I've not been suspended. As far as I'm concerned, the fight is going ahead. Spoken to Chris personally. Both want the fight to go ahead. Both have taken medical and legal advice, and we want to fight. And we want the fight to happen for the fans. You know, and You heard Chris Eubanks Jr. said that was no phone call. Now, you would think. Now, what Eddie said was slick. He was like, well, he said he spoke to Conor today. He could easily tell you, no, he didn't speak to me. There was no phone call. You know, but then wouldn't you think Chris Eubank would say, well, yeah, I did speak to him about this issue already. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like it makes it look like Conor Benn is lying. Caught lying because they asked Chris Eubank, no, I haven't spoke to him.
You had a phone call from Conor Benn this morning. What can you tell us about the conversation you had together?
There was no phone call.
You spoke to Conor?
No, we haven't spoken.
So, to read things the way they are, you know, to hear what Chris said, there was no phone call. I mean, did he text him? Did he email him? You know, but he said he spoken to him personally. Well, speaking to him personally, that's, you know, it's crazy. It's like, if you feel that way and you know you did something, and here's the problem with it too. Why isn't Conor Benn saying that's a lie? I did speak to Chris Eubank when that popped. Eddie Hearn, it looks like he's playing damage control for Conor. Because Chris Eubank, in my opinion, it would be to me, what would make more sense that Chris Eubank would ask this question by these gentlemen. He would say, no, I haven't spoke to him today, but I did speak to him about this issue earlier. Because that's what we were talking about. So I think at this point, you know, it seems like Eddie Hearn's lying. Just trying to do damage control, saying he spoke to him personally, saying this, that, and the other. But then he's like, no, he didn't speak to him that day. If you listen to what he said, have you spoke to him that day? He said he didn't. You know, which they did ask him, did you speak to him that day? So, you know, it's a tricky, it's devil in the words, in the wording, you know. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Eddie Hearn's newest video explaining Conor Benn's case. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.